we're doing every Monday night. So it's a little different than what we do on Wednesdays. I also just want to make sure you guys know that even though we are coming on and we are going to be talking about the Thriving Pet Expo, tell me you love this hat.
Love it. Love it.
I know. But you can ask questions to any of the guests that are on as well. This is just your little introduction to them. They're going to be speaking at the event. So tonight, hopefully you know the two crazy cat ladies, but maybe you don't. And if you don't, this is going to be so much fun for us. So this is Jay and Adrian from the two crazy cat ladies. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much
for having us.
We're excited to be here. And we're so excited about the Thriving Pet Expo.
Oh my gosh. Well, we were a few minutes late because I was saying before we started, passion plus passion plus passion. And we're talking about rescues and how we can help people and help the community. And it's just so exciting. And that's really what the Thriving Pet Expo is going to be about, is really literally helping people, right? It's not,
tools. I'm so excited about this. And your lineup of speakers, literally.
Oh my God, blow my mind. I'm nervous to even be in the room with so many amazing speakers, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you two say you're going to be nervous to be around everybody.
Oh no,
wait till
I
you
seriously
see.
do know.
I'm going to be like physically shaking. I'll come up to you and be like, look.
Some of these people I'm so excited to see that I'm contemplating just wearing a diaper because I know I'm going to pee myself a few times. Just, be proactive.
Yeah. They'd totally be proactive for sure. Yes. I remember the first it's funny that you guys are saying this because I'm thinking about way back when I had you guys on the actual legitimate podcast that I was doing. I could have worn a diaper then when you guys said yes. Like I was like, oh my God, they said yes. Like why would they want to talk to me?
Do you know how nervous we were with
what is wrong with all of us?
Yeah.
Right? Like we're all just humans.
We're just
trying
people.
To the pets, right? Like
I know.
I love it.
I do love it though. I think it's because, like we were saying before, the passion, like it comes across, and you just I'm drawn to people who are passionate about the same things that I'm passionate about. And it's hard for me to believe that someone is much of a nerd about it as I am. So I'm like, wow, like you guys are so passionate about what you do and still passionate about it. Because I've seen people I've been 40 years. I'm 40 years in. I'm like 41 years in. But I've seen people come in and then leave and then not be so passionate. And you guys are still so passionate about these cats and changing the world that I just love it.
The focus is really on keeping the perspective. I think, and in that perspective of what it is to help pets in general, you don't lose the joy. You don't. If you start veering off into, anything that us humans will get ourselves in trouble for, then that's where you lose perspective and it just compromises the mission.
Yeah, so we kind of try to keep tunnel vision on like the goal, the mission to, to help save cats.
And honestly, it's just been the most rewarding experience of our lives. The cat community is the most beautiful community we have ever met. Yeah. I mean, pets in general, but I have a special place in my heart for the cat community.
Yeah. Well, this year, Carrie, this year has been kind of rough for us. It started off pretty rough. Like we lost 2 of our cats.
That's right.
Two of our boys, one very tragically, like suddenly out of nowhere. And then a few weeks later, the other one passed of basically grief. And old age, but not really. But he just went downhill the second that Pooh Bear passed Oliver Twist. And so it was like, just like a kick in the arse, right? Like we were like, we're gonna, like, what are we even doing? Like we can't even keep our own cats alive. Like what the hell is happening? And then, but everybody in the cat community just like rallied for us. They like stood behind us.
The empathy, the support.
They held space for us. They were, absolutely amazing.
And that's a topic completely off topic, but I'm telling you, like being able to grieve our boys, I think really for the first time, if all we could actually share it. I remember going back in my previous life, if we lost one of our babies, I lost
You
my
remember
soul
your
cat.
previous lives?
My previous life, working a regular day job. I lost my soul cat. And it was like, oh, sorry, I heard about your cat. But it was like not a not a skip in the giddy up. Just you got to keep going, and it's just weird. I think that the pet community, there's so much beautiful everything about it, not just for growth and for productivity and for health and for awareness and all of that, but also for the experience of what it is to be a pet parent and to be acknowledged for the good and the hard times as Friday comes to say hello.
And we get each other, you know, like that's the beautiful thing about the pet community in general, is that we're all like on this together. We're all in it together, and for the same reasons. Whether you are bringing it around, whether you are a veterinarian that doesn't necessarily think in the same space as we do in the natural holistic pet world, or you are, you know, someone that's deep in it and nerdy like us, we're still in it for the same reason, right? And that's for the pets. That's for these little loves. Yes.
You know, it's interesting though, because I think you touched on something that I know it's kind of, you said it's kind of like off topic, but it's really not, because it's really hard when you put yourself out there as a pet. I don't know, people call themselves pet professional, pet expert, pet, whatever it is. And especially it's so different for a holistic person, right? Because if you're a conventional person and your animal dies, everybody just says, oh, I'm so sorry that your animal died. There's not that extra added pressure of, well, I thought your holistic thing was supposed to save your cat for the rest of his life and never die ever. Like, there's a lot more pressure. So now we have to deal with grieving the pets, as well as like, oh my God, what are people going to think? Maybe they're not going to believe me. Now they're going to think, I don't know if you guys went through that, but I lost a kitty that was 21 years old. And I was like, she died from kidney failure. And I talk a lot about kidney failure in cats. And then my cat died from kidney failure. Mm-hmm. And it was actually Dr. Judy Morgan who said, well, Carrie, she was 21, for God's sake. What were you thinking? Like she said, you know, sometimes they just die at 21, their kidneys stop. But isn't that a hard space to be in, that extra added pressure?
You know, I thought that it was going to be harder than it was. Like literally we put the pressure on ourselves before we even reached out to the community. And it was like, what should we have been feeding kibble this whole time? Like what, you know, like when you get like something tragic like that, where it's like a perfectly healthy, awesome cat to a dead cat.
Wasn't ever really perfectly healthy.
Well, he wasn't ever perfectly healthy, but he was at the best health that he had ever been in. Mm-hmm. And he was great, and everything was fine. And then he was literally dead within
20 minutes after dinner,
like,
and ate his dinner. And it was like such a great day. We were talking about, she actually had a friend that FaceTimed her from Nashville, and he knows our baby. So he was like, how's Pooh Bear? Cause everyone loves Pooh Bear. And she was like, he's doing so good.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, but so we put the pressure on ourselves before we even address the community. And when we addressed the community, we said, you know, we're questioning everything now. And literally, you do have like a little, like that piece of like, I'm supposed to do better. Right. But, you know, one of the lessons that we learned specifically from Pooh Bear is, you know, we're not necessarily in it to really build the forever cat, right? Or the forever dog. Like we're in it to give our cats the longest, healthiest, and happiest lives possible. And we don't always have control of that. We don't ever have control of that, really, right? Like they all have their destiny just like we do, right? They all have their time span. They all have their space with us, that they're supposed to be here with us on Earth. And then they're gone. And if they're gone through, you know, A, B, or C, it's, you know, it's something that we can't always put the blame on ourselves. We just have to do our best with the knowledge that we have, right? And we were doing that, and that's what got us through it.
That was an evaluation, though, and Jay really didn't hesitate. Honestly, I don't know. It was so hard for me, and I'm not good at posting in general. Jay's the master poster.
She's like, I post to Facebook.
She actually posted the day after, and I do think it was an evaluation, though, and I don't know if you've gone through this, and I think every pet parent has gone through this. It was like where you're like, what did I do wrong? And then you're going back through every decision that's been made. Yep. And while I think that was in a way cathartic for us, because, you know, I remember the first time we brought Pooh Bear in, he had an autoimmune disease that presented as vascular inflammation, which, you know, his cause of death is probably stroke or massive heart attack.
Right.
It presented as vascular inflammation, and he would bleed out. He literally would pop
Ulcer.
An ulcer that would hit an artery in his mouth, and it was like he was drowning in blood. It looked like we killed 4 people in
In
our house.
2016, it was
bleeding out.
like so scary.
Until we got even more into the holistic and started using homeopathy and many other things. We weaned that boy off of steroids for the last 5 years of his life. Thank you very much to Pam Rosella. Amazing.
And then
And
Katie,
he never
Dr.
had
Katie
that.
Woodley
Dr. Katie Woodley
got him into his healthiest state.
His healthiest state. She used Chinese herbs. We did the first.
She's amazing.
Oh my gosh. And it was amazing. But I remember our vet saying when we brought him in for a follow-up after we finally got the artery taken care of, like, what is this? And she was explaining it, and she said, to be honest, she was like, you got to do your best. He was 5 years old at the time. She said, I've never seen a cat with this condition live past 3 years old. So you're doing something right. So just keep doing your best. And
that was a conventional vet, by the way.
And I grieve every day thinking about Pooh Bear. I mean, I'm so grateful to him. And it's one of these things that brings us all together in the pet community. It's what it is to be motivated by these beautiful beings that come into our lives, that teach us stuff, that they leave a ripple effect that no other humans really have that power to do.
And we have to learn from it. If you haven't gone through, if I hadn't gone through some of the traumatic deaths I've had to go through, I had a dog die suddenly on me in the middle of the night. We think it was an aneurysm, and she just went into, we actually had to help her along. Thank God I had a vet friend of mine come over at 2 a.m. and pass her through, because she went into a coma, and just, there was no saving her. And I knew it, but I couldn't let her suffer all night. So my friend came over, and she's a vet, so she was able to help her pass. But if you don't go through stuff like that, sadly, you're not as good as what we need to be to help other people, right? As people who are outspoken and want to do that and want to be that for people, we have to go through those experiences ourselves. Otherwise, I hate saying that for you guys, but I guarantee that enriched you as well as all of the people that you come in contact with.
Right. So that's the other thing. There's so much to learn, even proactively. I mean, Pooh Bear passed at 12 years old, right? And that the one vet said she's never seen a cat live past 3, and he passed at 12. We don't know that, I'm sure that his condition had something to do with it, but we don't know. And he was a big
boy. He taught us so much. So much. Right.
So at the Thriving Pet Expo last year, we did this, and we're going to do it again this year. We did a memorial. And so please send me the pictures of your kitties that just passed this year, because we do a very beautiful memorial right before lunch. And we do it right before lunch so that you can be crying.
I'm like, so see, we don't really want to cry in public. So maybe no.
But it's a beautiful memorial. And the reason I did it is to remind people why we're here, right? We've gone through it. We've learned, and we don't want other people to go through it the same way. Sometimes we're all going to lose our pets at some point, but that feeling of losing them and feeling like you could have done more. And then even worse is when you find out, like for me, when I lost Tootsie, knowing that the flea and tick stuff killed her is what keeps me going, because I know I could have done better. I know I could.
And this is why an event like the Thriving Pet Expo is so important and so exciting, because there is so much that we learned that would not have brought Pooh Bear to 12 years of age at all, for sure, would not have brought him to 12 years of age, or Oliver Twist to 19. Because of everything that we learned from beautiful people like you and beautiful people that are going to be speaking at this event, everything that we learned, including Dr. Katie Woodley, who worked hand in one-on-one with him. There's so much valuable information. And if we take it in and utilize that information and apply it to our pets' lives, then you see the difference that it makes. And it doesn't help the guilt, or it doesn't help the process of grief that you go through when you lose one, which guilt is part of, right? But it does help them, and you see that, and it's beautiful. So
we have to answer this question everybody's been asking me. I'm getting emails. People want to know. And I'll quote one of the emails. what does it mean that the two crazy cat ladies are going to do performances?
That was my question, Carrie.
So I have this little strip show.
Listen, we're desperate. We'll sell tickets at any cost. Dr. Odette Setter said she'd do the splits last week when we were talking.
And now I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
I will.
Yeah. So, but you know, when we write down the speakers who are doing their topics, they're doing very specific topics about health. Then when people see you guys on there, it says, you know, the two performances from the two crazy cat ladies. So I'm gonna let you guys tell them. You know, what does that mean? We're obviously not going to let you strip.
No.
As bad as you want to, I had to veto that. I had to tell her.
It's against, union rules, right, California?
Yeah.
We can't do that, right? No, so here's the thing. Adrian plays the violin. I sing. I sing songs.
Like Nona Judd, like you would not believe.
And she's gonna play the fiddle, and I'm gonna sing, and it's gonna be amazing.
We're gonna do a little devil one down to Georgia.
No, what we're excited about, and this was not our brainchild, this was your brainchild, but what we're excited about doing is being a part of teaching audiences through
kind of like an improv vet visit. So I think, you know, this is something we talk about all the time, and we talk about with our community as well. It's you get an idea of what a vet visit's going to be like, and then it's like, well, you need to do this or you need to do that, and you're like, actually, I would like, and it's this it can be a very complicated conversation to have if you choose to have it. So we're going to be doing like improv vet visits, where we have a vet that is very much against raw feeding, very much about the vaccine schedules, very much about monthly, and how we deal with that in a very like improv.
And it's not going to be too much of acting, honestly, because we have been through these situations several times over several years.
We have one that we talked to Carrie. I think you remember. Yeah. We were in with Pooh Bear with his autoimmune disease a couple years ago, and they said, "Oh well, I'm sorry, but he shouldn't be eating raw food. He should be eating this." It was the hydrolyzed protein.
Yeah, hydrolyzed protein.
And they had an $85 bag of stuff there for me to check out with, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think so." I was like, "Hold on one second. Hey." They're wanting to, there's a bag of, I'm not quite sure. Could I see what that, right? It's $85. Okay. All right. Like,
I was like, oh, hell no, don't get that.
Were you actually on the other line?
She was.
Oh, right? Yeah. So it's a real phone call. Well, fake real.
But it's funny though, when you think about like how you deal with somebody face to face, because of especially as cat people, we do not like conflict. We do not like conflict. So
I don't think anybody does. It's like pet people in general.
Yeah, but introverts are. Jay actually is very good at it.
Right, which is why I'll be playing the part of
blackballed at 11 different veterinarian offices in Las Vegas.
I would say 11.
She's not blackballed.
I fired.
But she 11. Has said, much like she did at the end of last year, we brought our little Panthers in for just a wellness exam, and they were like, "Oh, we can't touch them until they've had the rabies vaccine again." And Jay was like, "Are you serious?"
I was nice this time. I was like, "Okay."
This time.
I was like, "Sorry to put you through that. We're leaving."
We're leaving. They're like, "You're leaving." We're like, "Yeah." And then she posted a story post about it.
I was a little passive aggressive, like I went from just being aggressive to passive aggressive.
But the performances that we're talking about are going to be a little more thought through than what we're, dancing about now, because these are those split-second decisions that we as pet parents have to make, understanding that we are our pet's best and sometimes only advocate. This is ideally we understand that we are teammates with our veterinarian, and that together, we can do our best together for our cats. We need our veterinarians. We need our veterinarians so much.
Right.
That sometimes
we have to figure out how to bridge that gap, and or maybe find a vet that you can bridge that gap with.
I just wrote an article called "Stop Looking for a Holistic Vet," and a lot of people are like, "What?" And I thought you were holistic, and I'm like, "Yeah, but there's 1,035 registered holistic veterinarians in our country. Of those vets that are registered holistic, in order to be registered through the AHVMA, you have to only have one modality in your practice. So you could technically be called holistic, have acupuncture, but sell Hill Science Diet and flea and tick and da 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 da.
Right.
So it doesn't do anybody any good to try to find the word holistic and go. So what the Thriving Pet Expo wants to do is not only give you the speakers that are going to be teaching you why a species appropriate diet is better for your animal, why you need to not use flea and tick. We've got so many different topics that we're going to be talking about the gut, about all these different topics. But then that's where you and our conventional veterinarian is going to come into play. And I don't know if I should I'm not going to give it away yet. I'm not going to give away who's going to be our conventional, which amazing veterinarian is going to play the conventional vet.
Well, that should be a surprise. Everybody should get your tickets just
to see
that.
So we're going to leave that as a little surprise who's going to play the role. But once you're learning this stuff, that what we found last year when we did the Thriving Pet Expo was this great, I have all this information, but now I don't know how to communicate it to my conventional veterinarian. And the idea behind this is to plant seeds in all of the conventional veterinarian hospitals so that they want to learn along with you, instead of, making them not be interested, get out of my office, you crazy weirdo. And we don't want to do that.
The biggest dynamic I feel that we're starting to get now, 25 years in as cat parents, instead of just like, pack up the babies, we're out of here. Or, absolutely, we need an antibiotic for constipation. Sure.
Oh, I've done all that.
Right. Is being able to understand the power of what an invitation is. An invitation to when the phone call that Jay made to the veterinarian that we found after we packed up our little Panthers and left, our current veterinarian, was a beautiful conversation. I remember listening to it from my office, and she was like, hey, I just had a couple questions about, we just found you, like, very complimentary because everything looked amazing. But we actually feed our cats a balanced raw diet. It's pre-made. Sometimes we DIY, but it does doctor have an issue with raw diets. Like, talk through all the stuff. We prefer titer testing too.
Over the phone.
Our first titer test was done by our awesome new conventional veterinarian.
Yeah, and it was the first titer test she'd ever done.
But there was
so awesome.
Yeah,
there was this
it's learning experience.
Really
a lot learning.
Contemplative conversation that went into that very first appointment, and I feel like, man, why didn't we think about that before? I mean, as cat people, we're always like, we're not good about the annual vet visits. We're not great about the annual dentals. It's like car rides are so stressful for our babies, and we're only going to go in when it's an emergency. And then we expect this veterinarian to be like, oh, absolutely, whatever you want, you're bringing this cat in because they're whatever the emergency is. But of course, sure, whatever you want is fine. You go in with that kind of, there's no health history. There's no relationship. There's just a very frenetic kind of energy about whatever's going on, and then conflict. There's a disagreement about something. So there's so much that we can do proactively to build that relationship with a teammate, a valuable teammate, right, to make those decisions that need to be made in an emergency situation so much easier, so much more understood, going with all the tools.
And like I said earlier, even the conventional veterinarians, they got into it. They didn't get into this profession just because they want to make money or something, they're not making a ton of money.
But they're working 80 hours a week.
Right? And the weird thing about when people say that, oh, you just do it for the money, doesn't everybody who goes to school to educate themselves also realize that that's how they're going to feed their families and eat? And we all have to make money. We all do. And what are you going to be when you grow up? It's somehow, right, if a veterinarian makes money, they're evil. I
Well, I
can't
think
quite
it's a
understand.
tough situation, right? You're talking about an emotionally escalated situation already, usually when there's vet visits involved. You don't hear people saying, "Oh my gosh, they're just trying to extort me from unless it's an emergency situation." If you're going into a wellness exam,
I don't know. There's sometimes those titers when it's like, oh, it's going to be $800 for one titer.
Sure.
You're like,
there definitely are some cases where I have to say, I think vets should lose their licenses over some of the stuff I've seen. I recently had a client tell me that her vet, oh God, it just makes me so mad. She went in, her dog had an ear infection. Her dog's had ear infections a lot. And so she uses the ear cleaner, which we could go down that road later, but we won't, unless you want to. But so she goes in and he's like, okay, so here's the ear cleaner. Do you want me to show you how to use it? Now she's used ear cleaner for this dog his whole life, but she didn't want to be rude. So she just said yes. She was like, sure. Like she didn't want to be like, no, I know what I'm doing, jerk. So she goes, okay. And so he shows her how to do it. And then she pays the bill. And when she gets out to the car, he charged her $40 to show her how to use the ear cleaner. And on top of that, sold it to her for whatever cost. Now, cases like that, I just think are the reason why people get very upset at our veterinarians, because but every, I don't care what department you're in, there's always the bad seeds.
Yeah.
So
just 1,000% for sure. Yeah. For sure. And then there's I mean, we have to remember that they're humans too. And there are those that like, they might be great usually, but they're having a really bad day. Maybe they had to euthanize like 7 dogs that day, you know, like, and what kind of like, they're not having a good day. And so they're just going to be like, buy the book right now, whatever, get this ear cleaner, charge them, blah, gone, you know? Yeah. So we have to, I mean, it's hard, but we have to also understand that.
Yeah. A little bit of compassion, human. A little bit of conversation, I think goes a long way, because I think, you know, vet fatigue is a real thing. Come on. It's crazy to me how far out you've got to book an appointment, right? When you're trying to be proactive, let alone having to wait 3 hours, 7 hours, 9 hours for an emergency, you know. So we need to recognize that veterinarians are a vital part of our toolkit to be the best, you know, pet parent we can be. And I think it's so crazy to me that I'm in my 40s and I was like, oh my God, we could call them first. Right? Not just like look up what's the closest vet near me. Oh, South Shores, let's go there. And then be like, what do you mean you want to? We could call them first and be like, hey, we have 5 beautiful beings that we want to give the best care for their entire lives, and we're wondering if you guys would be a good fit for us. So a few questions, right? Before the appointment.
Yeah. They can always hang up on you.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And then you have your answer.
Did you say raw? Yes. Click.
Okay, it's not them. I'm glad I called it.
It's better than driving over there and getting uncomfortable. It's so much easier to be uncomfortable over the phone than it is to be uncomfortable in their office with everybody staring at you, your animals there. Your animal doesn't need to be exposed to that energy because it is going to be bad energy. I love that you brought up the fact that we need to be compassionate to what they're going on through the day, because I can tell you that my dad just had to put his 19-year-old Sheltie to sleep. And my dad is 87 years old. And so we go into the vet to do it. And this vet, when it was all said and done, I thought, this poor woman, if she has to talk like that and act like that for every animal that she puts down, it must be so draining for her at the end of the day, because she was so highly compassionate about it. And I thought, oh my God, the energy she's creating in order to be sympathetic to my 87-year-old father who's putting down his best friend. I couldn't do that but even once a day. It was just really, really amazing. Like I actually ended up, at some of the people that know, I put it on Saving Pets. I actually wrapped up the Forever Dog for her. She's not holistic at all, not even in the ballpark. And I wrapped up that book and I brought it to her and said, thank you for being so kind to my dad, which is what we're going to be teaching you guys, is being part of, I keep calling the Thriving Pet Expo a movement, I should call it the Thriving Pet Movement. Although, except I have a hard time saying movement, because then I'm always think of bowel movement. I don't
Owls.
know. It's just they go together, and
I'm too poop obsessed. You can't say movement without
me
going,
either. And you can't say do. You can't say do around me, or I giggle like a 2-year-old. It's just
Yeah,
Okay.
we're 12.
But it is a movement, Carrie.
It is
What
a
you're
movement.
doing is a movement.
It is a movement.
Yes.
And the idea behind it is that we don't, like, people that are coming, I really am challenging you to find even one veterinarian that you plant a seed. I never got a call back from this vet. Nothing. I dropped it off at the office. She wasn't there when I was there. I left a note. I left where she could contact me if she wanted to talk about it, but I didn't push it. I just said, this is a book that I love and has helped me in my journey in caring for animals. I've owned the Spaw. All I said is I've owned the Spaw for 40 years. I didn't say, and I'm holistic and you're not. I just said it's a book that's helped me. I hope you find it interesting. And I never heard from her, but it could be 10 years from now when she's sitting in her living room and that book's over in a corner and she grabs it. Who knows?
Yep.
Who knows? But it felt so good to do that. Like, it felt so good to plant that seed, even though, it just changed my whole energy that day. Like, I literally walked out of there going, I have done something someday good. And maybe it was one of her receptionists that will find out, because they're all going to ask, right? I dropped it off. Maybe one of those receptionists will be like, what was that? And she's going to say, oh, is this? She could say it's some stupid book this holistic weirdo wants me to read. She may say that, but I don't know.
But you can't.
It's planting seeds.
Yeah, and
It's
you can't put
planting
energy into that. Once you drop the seed, you let it
You
go.
let it
Let it
go.
go. Let it go. You
Yep.
gotta let it go and let it grow. I feel like it is such an important thing.
Yeah.
People can stay focused on what it is that they're focused on,
Yeah.
instead of the distractions of a lot of the stuff. It was difficult. Like especially, so not just the relational dynamic between you and a veterinarian that kind of butt heads, right? Especially if it's out of the blue, if you don't even know that that's what they think, or Friday and Zorro were spayed and neutered at this clinic that we were at.
and vaccinated.
And their initial vaccines. Like we had been in there with our boys who were going through cold laser therapy and this and that and whatever, and all their dental workups. We had been in there probably 7 times, and we're like,
in that year.
oh, we got to get our Panthers in just for their annual whatever. So I'm the more relational than Jay in those moments where it's like, oh, wait a minute, we got to figure out how to figure this out. And Jay's like, no, we're packing up. Are you kidding me? Like,
She was, well, in this moment, she was like, well, what about, do you guys do titer testing? And the vet was kind of like, and I was like, no. Like,
she was like, there's no point.
there's no point. Like, we're not going to try to keep.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to pay that money to do titer testing. I'm not going to vaccinate them, even if the titer came.
Right.
Like, I have been with them since they were 8 weeks of age, and they have never been outside, and they are not exposed. And no.
Now, so a couple things. My point is that, this staying focused on what the mission or what the goal actually is. Not only did that situation cause like relational conflict between us for the 15-minute drive home. Like, are you serious? Our poor
I was like, record
Panthers,
this.
and I
Film
was like, well, okay,
Turn it on.
post it in the stories. Not only was it an angsty moment for us, but it was an angsty moment for them. We've been in there. They know who we are. It's not like they think we're some nefarious cat hoarders that are trying to like any of that. It's just like,
It was a
could have
vet
been helpful
that was running late, and it was probably not a good day, and maybe she had something against black cats, or not something against, but maybe was a little scared of black cats. I don't know, but we did know that she was running late that day, so she was just probably just trying to get us off the.
Here's my point, is that it would have been great when we made that appointment for them to look at our cat's health history that they had there and say, oh, just so you know, they'll need to be revaccinated before we can
See
or them. For us now knowing this to say, hey, we're bringing them in. No, they had their initial vaccines. We're not planning on getting the booster. They've been indoor. We'll get it tighter if that's required, but whatever. Instead of packing everyone up, going down there, it's like the things that you learn, the questions that you get asked, the ways that you can be more proactive to avoid conflict in that moment, or put our pets through something unnecessary.
Right.
The more that we can do that and stay focused on, eliminating variables.
Yeah.
Like Jay's great at that in business, as far as like, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do. Oh, keep an eye on the bumper here. We got to make sure this is taken care of. That needs to move out of the way.
I run a car shop.
I'm like, is this an analogy of like,
It is. She's like bumper. I'm like, yeah, I run a car shop.
No, like the stay between the stay between.
I get it.
Whatever.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I was like, what's happening? Where are we going? I'm following this. Okay, so we can't give away who the conventional veterinarian is going to be, but I do want people to know how serious we are about this. So we are, even though we're calling it improvisational vet visits, that we are going to give you guys the scenario that is going on, right? So whatever it is, you go to the vet, maybe your vet wants to give you antibiotics, and our secret conventional veterinarian is going to play that role, and Adrian and Jay are going to play the role of the unsuspecting pet parents who are just trying to figure out how to get through it. But I do want you guys to know we are practicing. Like, this is serious. Like, I'm not saying we're going to go to acting classes or anything like that, but there is some we're leading up to doing some practicing and making sure that we give you guys the most amazing ways to communicate with your veterinarians, because the goal is, and I may even do something where we give away stuff like later on for next year, like anybody who's been able to convert or that the seed had been planted. Like, for example, the book that I gave this veterinarian, I would consider it a win, right? If she called me and said, hey, I got your book and I started to read it, and thank you, I really enjoyed it. That's a win for me. She may not change her whole practice based on it. She's probably still going to be giving Cheese Whiz, which was on her counter, which I was like, okay. And she may not, but it would be considered a win. So I think it would be fun too, to like get like on because we now have the Thriving Pet Expo, but page. Wouldn't it be so great if afterwards people started posting where they planted those seeds, and we could see, beautiful. Hey, in Hawaii, I gave a book for this, or hey, in Florida, I told a client this. She didn't even know what a titer was, and now she's going to look into it. Those are wins. And so I'm like, I really want to start figuring out and keep going even after the expo to figure out if this plan that we've concocted with, you and I and I don't want to say her name. I'm like, I better stop talking about the conventional vet because I'm going to say her name. But if this little thing we've come up with, if we actually get to see after the expo, and that's why we need you guys there, because this is a movement.
Without vowels.
It really is, because I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. Like I told you guys, for those of you who don't know, I was a vet tech for 12 years. I was the girl giving those vaccines. I was the girl telling you to feed science diet. I sold more science diet than I could possibly begin to tell you. I can't tell you how many cases of ID I put in people's cars. Like I cringe when I think about it. And now I need to, this is what drives me. I have to fix that. Like I have to go back and like reverse all that damage I did. And I know those animals, I'm old, so those animals are probably long gone, but I have to do something to fix it. And so that's what the Thriving Expo is about, is fixing my mistakes in my 50s. But together we can do it. We can't keep just learning for ourselves. We have to learn, and our vets have the biggest power. They have the most power, and they reach the most people. And so that's why I brought you two on, because you guys are going to be so good at this, so good at this.
It's going to be fun. And it's like, I love the idea, because like, it's a mixture of like entertainment and education all at the same time. Yeah. And it's infotainment, right? And it's different. Like, that's a good word. Yeah. And it's different from what like you typically get at conventions. You get a lot of information
to ask your veterinarian,
right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get hands-on type of like real life experiences ish, where you're like, oh man, that exactly happened to me. And I can tell you that some of these will be exactly what's happening to the people in the audience.
They will be.
And they
will be. There's so many of them. Like we've talked about like, which ones are we going to do? Because we know them. And you got all of you guys who are on here, everybody who's on here, you have been through these scenarios 100%. There's so many of them that the only problem we're having is how are we going to pick all of them? How are we going to, so there's been some talk about of just putting it in a hat and picking them because we know them by heart. There's so many of them though. And so we'll get through quite a bit of them. We're going to get through quite a bit of them. So I want to shift gears here just a little bit because on Saving Pets, I had put a question out. And the question was, why, and you guys are the only two I know that can answer this, why do we spend more time talking about dogs than cats in general?
You think we can answer that? Because we don't.
I know you don't, but why is it like for example, Saving Pets One Pet at a Time is all about pets. It doesn't say saving dogs. It doesn't say saving cats. It says saving pets. And yet most of the conversation is at dogs. Why do you guys think that is?
I honestly feel that dogs are far more expressive than cats to humans. I think once you get to understand a cat, you realize how expressive they are. But there are so many stereotypes of cats being aloof, cats being independent. Cats are wild animals in your home. That there's not this understanding of, your dog is a man's best friend, and a dog is so happy to see you when you come home. They're not sitting on the couch being like, sup. You know what I mean? But the way that we read our cats, we've actually had people say to us like, oh, someday when I grow up, I want to get a dog. But I think I'm going to start with a cat just to see how I do. Like, it's a practice animal. Yeah. Like, you don't have to take care of an animal. You don't have to take care of a cat. They'll literally say you got to get a food bowl, water bowl, and a litter box. And then you just let them go. It's like, that's actually not true.
It's not true, but it is what we did back in the day.
But they're not. Yeah. Right. The cats aren't going to be chewing up your couch because they're bored.
Do you see my flip-flops?
Well, they chew up your flip-flops, but that's just one.
I have to say, as a cat and dog owner, I have 2 dogs, 4 cats. My cats are definitely harder than my dogs. Now, my husband would disagree with that because the cats can do no wrong. So he doesn't think they are any work at all because it doesn't matter that they scratched my couch or whatever they're doing. He doesn't even know they did it for that matter. But the cats they're more of a challenge for me because you're right. Yeah. Exactly right. Dogs are more expressive. And and I think you nailed it. I knew you'd be the one to answer it. And because they're less expressive, cats are less expressive in their facial expressions, right? They don't wag their whole body. They don't put their ears down when they're angry.
They don't even have the facial muscles to make faces.
Yeah.
Like, they are little, predatory beasties that they are made to be little hunters, right? And the subtle ways that they communicate, some of our cats, far less subtle than others, are really fascinating though. So they are far more expressive in a way than dogs are. Their emotional cortex is more similar to a human's than a dog's is. And you think about how humans and dogs just bond.
Yeah. Right. But their expressions are completely different. And science shows that cats are 95.6%. Our domestic house cats are 95.6% DNA exact to a Siberian tiger. So they're also very stoic, right? They're still very non-domesticated, right? So that's why it also makes them harder pets because they don't show their pain. They don't show their ailments like you like a dog. I always say like our dogs like stub their toe and they're like, tiny
so
little
dramatic
thing, and it's like, oh, you're so dramatic. But our cats will like just run and hide, or you have no idea that their kidneys are failing.
A 2-inch gaping abscess on the side of their body.
Right.
They're still like, hey, it's fine. We're cool here. It's fine.
Because
they do not show weakness. They do not show pain. And we wonder why. It's like all of a sudden everything was fine, and then all of a sudden it's like they're dying of this. Well, all to say though, I think that dogs are far more social as well. You have the dog parks, you've got the groomers, you get to go here, you get to meet friends doing this and that and playing fly ball. And in cats, you don't necessarily take to the cat park. Right.
And you bring your cat over to your other friend's house who has a cat so they can bond together. You don't do that.
Completely different species. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing in recognizing, what makes cats so special and different is recognizing that they are not small dogs.
Yeah.
Because, everyone says, oh, dogs and cats, they're the best companion animals. Like they're kind of similar, but they're very, very different.
But it's also our mission to get the cats into the like pet health space, basically, right? Like it has been our mission for 8 years to get people talking more about, to get cat parents aware that the same things that we talk about with our dogs hold true to cats, as far as like nutrition and like health and well-being and enrichment and all of these things that are very prominent in the dog world, right? It's something very much talked about in the dog world. In the cat world, not as much. So we're like, that's why we're doing what we're doing, is so we can get people.
That's why I need you to be at the Pet Expo, because it becomes very dog centric, and that's not. You guys know I have 3 baby kittens. I just showed you earlier that I'm very cat centric. I have a cat hotel. But for me, I think a lot of times what happens, and it's so much more. I don't want to say more important, because that's not the right language I want to use, but it is very important that you get in tune to your cats. And the reason why another reason I think a lot of times dogs are talked about is that dogs start showing symptoms of illness a lot quicker and differently than cats do. And like just from my tech days, right? Dogs were constantly coming in with chronic ear infections and skin problems, and they have all of that stuff. Those are the warning signs. But I feel like with cats, there's usually not a warning sign, and then it's kidney failure, and it's like boom. And so you don't have this constant need to be talking about your cats at the dog park, like why is your cat licking his paws, or why is your cat doing this, because it's just not. But it's sad, and it's more important to be paying attention to your cats, because like you said, they'll just go under the bed and you won't really know anything. So we really need to start educating people about how to be in tune with what is going on with your cat. If your cat always sleeps with you, and then one night he's not sleeping with you, you have to, that's not just he was in a bad mood. There's something probably lurking there, Yeah.
Lurking is the word, but also why we're also advocates for recognizing that your veterinarian is your teammate. Yeah. So often with cats, because they're stoic, these annual vet visits, I know it's a pain in the ass with multiple cats. Yeah. But that blood work is so important. So it's not about being exactly on the same page with your veterinarian about everything. It's about having a relationship with your veterinarian that's going to be beneficial for you taking care of your cat. And so often those things that they can find in blood work is like, ooh, that's a little high this time. All right, thank you. I've got it from here. Yeah. Right? Now we've got other tools that we can work on to help with A, B, or C. So it's not going to be like I'm not leaving with a pharmaceutical, but it is so important for us just to get used to making a relationship, having a beneficial relationship, a teammate that we can go in so that our cats can tell us what they need to tell us without us getting hit in the head with a 2x4 and telling them that they've got a couple months left. Maybe.
Right. So let's go to a little bit. I don't want to be completely remiss and not catch up some of these questions and stuff that have come across for you, and some comments that are amazing comments. So I'm going to go through a couple of them with you guys. One of them I'm just looking at right now for Michelle says, what do you recommend for flea prevention for our outside cats?
So I think they're completely free roaming, like community cats.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if we're talking about either way, I guess. We still want to go natural if at all possible, whether we're caring for a feral community or if we have like indoor, outdoor cats that go inside and outside. There's so many ways that we can protect our cats, even if it is just a preventative, right? Like you can mix 50% apple cider vinegar with 50% water, put a little catnip oil in there, and fleas hate that. Right.
And as far as let's talk about the application.
Put it on the areas outside in your yard where they go.
This is where it gets tricky, though. If you have a feral community, it's not like you can go and just give them a little rub down of the deterrent, right? That's probably where something more like diatomaceous earth would come in, where you can kind of help their area, keep some of those fleas out. But indoor, outdoor kitties, absolutely. Use a deterrent. I think the other thing that's fascinating about fleas is that they're always attracted to the weakest of hosts, which is why people with multiple cats will be like, I don't know why one of my cats is covered in fleas. and the other 3 cats are completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about? It's
We
because
see it a lot.
that one cat that has a flea infestation may be dealing with another weakness that the other cats don't have. So go get that wellness exam. But you can use natural deterrents for all those indoor-outdoor kitties, or you can kill them with something natural like this.
Yes. So
And there's a lot on the market.
There's so many out there, but Feline Essential Flea X is an all natural flea solution. So it will kill the fleas. It will also deter them, but it's not going to harm them. You can spray it in your mouth.
Does it go in their mouth or does it go on them?
No, it goes on them, but you can spray it in your, how safe it is that you can put it in your own mouth, which you cannot do with Revolution or any of,
it's
or
safe for nursing mothers.
Frontline or
it is fine for them to lick off their fur. It's absolutely fine. So that's there, and it's not just Flea X. Like there are so many options that are out there. The natural deterrent is what would be number one. The apple cider vinegar and water with a little bit of catnip oil, like just stop the problem. If you know you live in a flea-prone area, do that proactively. If you need to treat the issue, please try to treat it naturally.
As naturally as possible.
Dr. Judy Morgan blew our minds with this one because do you know that a flea only spends 5% of their life cycle on its host? 5%. Isn't that mind-blowing? So think about your environment too. I know a lot of people, especially up north, they get into that hot summer month, summertime, whatever. They got a crawl space underneath that damp, dark. Think about treating that area because you can't necessarily get rid of it if they're just always multiplying. So it's not just about treating your cat. And I think that's where we can run into a lot of extra damage. It's like, so how many people are like, I gave him another Revolution treatment, but the fleas keep coming back. And it's like, okay, we got to find the problem. If they're indoor only and you're doing all this stuff and things, then where is this coming from? We've got to
get your home,
get to the root of it.
Yeah. Lori can maybe post it, but I just did a live video, which sometimes I wonder what I'm thinking. In the midst of me bathing a cat, like I just was like, oh, I should do this live because somebody might want to watch this. So I just did how to properly bathe your cat for fleas. Live video, so Lori can probably find that because I will tell you one of the biggest problems is people, and I see groomers do this. I've seen vets do it wrong. They get their cat, they put them in, they bathe them up, and they really wasted their time and put the poor cat through hell because they didn't do it properly. So I won't get into the whole gist of it, but you could look at that. It'll show you how to properly and what to do and how to look for and
yes.
I'm using apple cider vinegar in the water. So it absolutely works. And it's interesting too. The only problem with apple cider vinegar is that fleas love going between the eyes and under right here. And so you have to be careful. I have done this with apple cider vinegar. I put a little tiny bit on a Q-tip, very tiny, and you can dilute the heck out of it. It doesn't take much. And I'll run the Q-tip just a little bit right there. And what will happen is the fleas will go running out of that area. It's so gross. And then you can see them and get them all off the head and then saturate the body with the apple cider vinegar. So anyway, that video I just did Sunday. Yeah, yesterday. I just did yesterday.
Oh my God, we have to share that.
I want to put that on our website.
That's going
well,
up.
it was like I'll set this phone up. It's so bad, such a bad video.
It's the information though.
It's the information.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and because it just shows you how to get under the eyes and between what you're doing, how you're doing it, making sure you're bombing the house the same day or whatever you're doing. As a holistic person will tell you, I support bombs in the house when you have a flea infestation. Because
how long do you keep babies out?
Board them somewhere, keep them out for 24 hours if you can. Some of the bombs will say 4. The problem with once a cat has enough fleas to be underneath the eyes and you're talking about a really bad problem. And so the whole house has to be done. And you can try some natural stuff, but if it doesn't work, of course, I'm a big supporter of that. But I would rather your house have it than your cat have it. So I'll tell people if you absolutely have to do that, but then make sure you're mopping the floors and anything that the cats are going to be laying on. You got to wash their bedding. You got to do all that stuff, but you got to do it the same day.
I know if you have a flea infestation and you want to do it naturally, it literally can take like 3
Yeah.
months to get rid of. And it's like, you have to be consistent. So you can't have a job. You can't, like you have to be able to like,
It's awful.
yeah.
No, but to your point, Carrie, I think that's really important because before I ever even met Jay, I remember living in an apartment and having two cats that in fact, I don't even know where it came from, but literally you could see them jumping. I was just eaten alive. My poor babies I literally went and lived in the car with them for 2 days, set off a bomb. And then I will say though, big point that I didn't think of 25 years ago was getting in there and cleaning up a little bit before I let my babies back out. Because even the dishes in my cabinet tasted like chemicals. And I think about that so often. I never even thought of.
There's so much cleanup that you have to do.
You have to do the cleanup after. Because you're going to be walking on your tile and that stuff. So
they're absorbing that.
Yeah. So, and you want to follow up with some type of like milk thistle.
That's a good idea. Good idea. Yeah.
Whatever you're using, whether it's if you have to use a chemical flea treatment or a chemical flea balm, then like follow up with some milk thistle. So
Hi, Marilyn.
Marilyn too.
Well, the timing on that flea was just perfect because it is. I won't say it's a bad flea season. Because I've been doing this 40 years and it's always a bad flea season. I'm like, I don't know. I hear that every year. Oh, it's a bad flea season. I will say this. I do think that the fleas are becoming not more abundant, but I think they're becoming more super fleas. They're harder to kill. They're harder to repel. They're resistant. And I think it's because each year we keep coming up with stronger and stronger toxic flea stuff that these guys are like learning how to survive. So it's making it a little harder for the natural stuff to do what it used to be. Because I used to be able to spray a little bit of, cedar oil or something, and I would never see a flea anywhere. Now I have to work harder, much harder. So, So
we're having trouble with mosquitoes this year.
In Vegas.
In Las Vegas. Like we've never had mosquitoes in 18 years we've been here.
Wow. That's got to be from. Did you guys get a lot of rain too? I know California did.
Maybe. Not this year.
No, not in
But did you guys know? Here's some trivia. Did you know that Nevada is the most mountainous state in the U.S.?
I did know.
Yeah. So that means you guys got a lot of snow, which means there's probably a lot of water lingering around. So anyway, little trivia.
That's true. There's still.
That's the only thing I can think of. That there's little.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
It's irritating for us. We're like, we love Tennessee because of those darn mosquitoes.
Right? Yeah. Where are the mosquitoes so I can live there? So let's look at some of this other stuff. So somebody made this comment that I thought was frustrating, actually. She said that her vet will do the titer test, and I wanted to give her kudos on this. Her vet will do the titer test, but will not accept the results. Owner of the clinic we go to said she will titer test, but she won't accept results.
It's unfortunately common. And here's a tip for you: if your vet tells you this in advance, don't get your titer with that vet. Right. Because you're not going to be able to go back and you're going to waste a lot of money.
She probably did. But wouldn't it be funny to be like, oh, you know what? Skip the titer. I'll just give you my $80.
Can we just tell you real quick, our first story, our little Annie that came to us on March 19th, that came into our lives in a whole different story. We didn't know where she came from. She was obviously someone's cat. She had a collar on her. No one claimed her. So of course we did. And we were bringing her in first. She went into heat. So we waited till after her first heat. We went in and got her fixed. And then comes the question of vaccines. Has she been? And we said, could we please, with our veterinarian, could we please run a titer? And they said, that actually doesn't count for the law.
Like we can, but it doesn't count. And I'm like, are you talking about I think she said something like they don't accept results, basically.
Right.
They
Same
don't.
thing.
And I'm like, are you talking about like the law, like the police officers
for a rabies vaccine?
Right. And she was like, yes. And I was like, oh, I don't care about that. Like we are doing this because we don't want to over vaccinate her because we want her to live a really long time. And we've had a cat that was over vaccinated.
Our Pooh Bear.
And ended up with an autoimmune disease for his entire life.
So we'd like to dodge that.
We don't care what
The law
says. We are only doing this for our, like, so we know.
So gratification.
And so our vet knows.
So, and just be prepared for this. So we go in there, they're doing her a blood draw, just a blood draw, because she's a brand new kitty, blood draw and titer. And they're like, actually, we did not get enough blood for the titer. And, you know, we actually don't need to do the titer. And we're like, we'll come back for that.
Yeah.
When she does the spay, because we just set up the spay, let's get enough blood while she's under for the spay. That titer came back. Our vet called us and said,
she is so protected that I don't think she'll even ever need another rabies vaccine. Like her numbers are so high that I could easily let her travel. It would be like, and I was like, we were so just grateful for the information that we have learned from beautiful people like you and beautiful people that are going to be speaking at the Thriving Pet Expo, that we went ahead and did that anyway. That because could you imagine if we allowed her a vaccine after she's like has that many antibodies, right? Like her immune system would just
go crazy. And rabies, I go back and forth whether I think the rabies vaccine causes more reactions or if lepto does. Those two, whatever it is about those two vaccines, the rabies is more visible to me. So that's why I tend to go that way, because I see all the, as a dog groomer, I see this constantly. Dog gets a rabies vaccine. A couple of weeks later, all the hair falls out. Then there's a big bald spot on his leg and the hair never grows back. It scars over, which is always interesting to me that vets will go, it doesn't cause any harm. And I'm like, it killed all those hair follicles. It scarred over. And the dog's like, clearly there's some harm there. But lepto tends to make dogs and cats really sick. But the rabies vaccine, man, that's the other reason why I want to do expos like this, because when we get to that point where we can get into legislation and voting so that our pets don't have to be this, we need an army behind us. We have to have an army of people fighting and more veterinarians, because they're not going to, like, if I go to legislation right now and say, hey, I don't think that we should be giving our pets rabies more than once ever, they're going to look at me like I'm just a crazy nutcase. But if I got 4,000 vets behind me going, yeah, we agree, then that's why we got to plant these seeds. So, I never ever thought this day was going to be coming where people were seeing it and understanding it and able to communicate about it. And this is just the next level. You guys are just the next little plan. Like this,
like to be prepared for that. Like you think about what it is to plant the seeds. And I do think, you know, you talk about leaving that book for your veterinarian that helped your dad with his letting his best friend go. I think with our veterinarian, I mean, we went in there once, we didn't get enough blood, and going there again. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, there's still a little bit of very congenial, very fine, but you got to kind of still like stand your ground in a way and say, this is something that I'd like to have done. I don't know this. Annie's brand new to us. We don't know what she's been through, and we don't know where she's been. We don't know if she's been vaccinated, if she was double, like, has she been, how many homes has she been in? So we would like to do this for her, not for us. Yes, we're going to pay for it. But just that kind of reminder for me of what it is to be prepared to not just go once, but have to go twice, and to just kindly say again and again, this is for my cat. It's not for some piece honestly, of paper for the law.
The titer test was not cheap, but I can tell you that. So here's the thing from the pet parent perspective, right? You see that and you're like, oh, it's like $35 for the vaccine, and it's like $350 for the titer. Why would I do that? Right. But I can tell you that by paying that $350, we saved thousands and thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache by just knowing, but just knowing that we don't have to do
and that. That is part of the problem, I think, with some of the vet community and pet parent and people. We're all want convenience, quick, fast, easy, cheap. That's what we want. But it tends to come bite you in the ass and become more expensive, more time, less convenient, more heartache. All of that stuff comes with cheap, easy, fast, and get it over with. It's just like the vaccines. When I tell people, don't get, if you're gonna do all those vaccines, if you're gonna do every single vaccine there is, at least break it up, and go. And then they'll say, well, I don't want to go back all the time. And I'm like, I promise you that is a better thing for your animal, to just take the time and go back, give their body some time. So yeah, we gotta be prepared. Like you're saying, be prepared, be ready. I always tell people, make a list of what is important to you. And don't waver from that just because you don't want to look bad or you don't want confrontation because imagine that vet that did that titer test, what she was thinking, right? I mean, just because you guys weren't impatient and you were like, we're going to do, that's what we said we were going to do and we're going to do it. Wow. Like, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So I know we're take you guys past time, but so I just did want to point this out because how excited did you guys know that Dr. Becker and Rodney Habib are looking into writing a book called The Forever Cat?
Of course.
I didn't know.
You didn't know?
I didn't know.
Jay trapped him in a closet and said, you will not leave until you write The Forever Cat. I'm kidding. No, but we did hear it.
So awesome, exciting. Nancy, thanks for putting that out there. I didn't know. I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, that needs to be done. Yeah. Oh, how awesome. Wow. I hope you guys will be quoted in that.
Yeah, hopefully. Or we end up writing it and they're quoted.
The book is coming out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and let everybody go. It's 6:11. I kept you guys past a little time, but I cannot thank you guys enough for being here, being part of this movement that we're trying to put together. We have such an amazing team, bringing you guys on that team. I told you we had a big meeting and I said, I feel like I have the 2016 Women's National Olympic team because it's just such a fabulous team. That's when Dr. Sutter said, I'll do the splits. But it's just
hey, real quick, since we're streaming live on our page too, can you name some of the rock stars that are going to be there?
And the link is in the bio to sign up.
Yes, everything's in there. So our speakers are Dr. Barry Sands, Dr. Katie Kangas, Dr. Udette Sutter, Dr. Katie Woodley, Dr. I think, and then we have Rita Hogan, we have Billy Hookman, the two crazy cat ladies, of course. I think I named everybody. I don't think I missed anybody. So please tell me I didn't when I go on.
Julianne Lee.
Oh my God, Julianne Lee.
I know. I'm like so excited.
Have you met Julianne before?
Not in person, no.
So let me tell you, I saw Julianne in Chicago many years ago during the Dogs Naturally magazine had this big event in Chicago, and I went, and Julianne was doing a talk, and she's just such a beautiful person. And so she gets up on stage and she pulls a chair over and she sits down in her chair, and she starts talking about the ecosystem with the wolves in Yellowstone, which is like an amazing thing for me. I've actually been down into some wolf dens in Yellowstone, and it's just a beautiful place for me. So she starts talking about the ecosystem and how when they removed the wolves, what it did to the ecosystem in Yellowstone. She is one of the most amazing speakers I have ever heard. And I said to her, Julianne is the reason the Thriving Pet Expo exists today. She's one of the biggest reasons. I said to her at the end of that event, if I ever did an event, would you come speak for me? And she says, well, I live, really far away in Nova Scotia. So, I don't want to like make it sound like she was being selfish, but I'm sure she didn't want to come for 5 people, right? All the way from Nova Scotia to Southern California. So she says, you'd have to have like 200 people. And so I worked, this is how that happened. I was like, all right, okay. I need her to come and speak to people and just be more available. Wait till you hear her speak. That's what's another thing that is so great about the Thriving Expo is that you'll get to hear everybody. So sometimes you go to these and when there's a lot of speakers, you can only hear, you got to pick, you got to choose. There's different rooms. There might be 8 speakers, but you may only get to hear this one and that one, and you got to figure it out. everybody's in one room. And you will get to they'll get to see every one of your performances. They will get to see every one of the speakers. They will get to see every single thing that goes on. You don't miss. So it's going to be amazing.
Can I also say too that I think one of the most valuable things that you're offering for everyone that's attending is the opportunity for Q&A with these beautiful brain trusts.
Yes.
That is such an invaluable experience. I mean, as a pet parent, I would just the opportunity to ask a question to these incredible people is amazing. So not only are they going to be like sharing tools and all of that,
but they're going to be interacting with you guys as an audience.
It's just a beautiful movement.
It is a movement. I'm going to have to get a hat that says it's the movement. It's a little challenging, but necessary when you're a speaker like Julianne or Dr. Udit Sutter. I don't know if you guys have ever seen her speak like in this kind of she's funny. Like she's funny. When Dr.
Oh, we love her. I don't think we've heard her
speak to Super Zoo. She came to Super Zoo last year, and we have a Super Zoo party. And she comes in with poop socks.
Yeah, she's funny.
And there were people there that know who she is, and it was like meeting. You would think it was like meeting. Who's
like they needed to wear diapers.
They were like, "Is that really Dr. Odette?" We're like, "Do you think we could be introduced?"
Yeah.
No, Adrian goes and introduces this one person to Dr. Odette. She was like, I am like your biggest fan. Like I have loved you for so blah blah blah. And Odette was like,
Why?
Yeah, that's her. That's so Dr. Suter. That is so her. Why? Why would you? But she doesn't. I don't think she's so humble, but she's so funny when she speaks. I didn't expect that.
I love her so much.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah,
I love
this
her.
is just you are really. I mean, that's how apropos. This is a big movement.
It is a big movement.
Big constipated movement.
I'm excited. I mean, this isn't happening until what are the dates
September
again?
30th, October 1st.
Why 11th?
It is.
Oh, by the way.
It is coming up. I can't believe how fast it is coming up. Last year we did a 1 day, and it just became clear we needed to do a 2 day. It's in Newport Beach, California, at the Hyatt. So I was just down there today, kind of getting everything. The like extra final paperwork signing and all the nervous stuff, checking out the rooms, making sure things are. I'd be remiss if I said this. We really are looking for really great rescue organizations that want to come out. They can come for free. So if anybody that's listening, if you have rescue organizations that you support and you think they're doing a good job, they can have a free table. They just have to contact us so that they can set up a table and hopefully get awareness to the programs they're doing. So that's really super important. If you guys have any interest in helping some rescues, because I work with rescues, it's important to me to have that. So that should be really great too, to have them out there, and we can support that too. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get a lot done that weekend. It should be. I'm working on, fingers crossed, don't count guarantee, but I am actually trying to get a animal communicator to come out Saturday night. So, I know. So if we can get the Saturday night, I got to call her. She's in, but we're trying to work with the Hyatt to allow us to do it, because we would have to go till 10 o'clock at night. So the idea would be that I'm giving stuff away. The idea would be that we finish up the speakers Saturday night, like around 6 o'clock. Everybody leaves, gets dinner, does whatever they're going to do. But then if they want, they can come back to that same room, and the animal communicator would be there. So just for fun. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we're working on it. So we've got some cool stuff in the works, and you guys are just like, I just can't wait. So, and we have practice on Thursday.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited for our meeting on Thursday. I do have to say though that like we're last year was the first year that you put this on, and everyone was so excited about it. And then you invited us, but it was the exact same weekend as CatCon, which is our biggest cat convention that we go to every year. And so we missed it. Jill Vega was planning to come see us, but had to go to the Thriving Pet Expo, of course. And so she was like, I'm going to come over on Sunday or Saturday night. And then she was texting me and she was like, girl, I cannot tell you how amazing this is. Like, I am on mountaintop high. I feel so good. I am so excited. I wish you guys were here, and I can't make it to that. Damn it, we're going next year for sure.
Yeah, I always say it's like that's how I felt when I went to the one in Chicago. It was like just being in a room with people who I didn't have to explain myself to, where I didn't have to like go, yeah, I mean, maybe, you know, where I could actively say, yeah, I feed my dogs a species appropriate diet and my cats have always eaten raw. Just to be in that room with like-minded people, and not just like-minded people, but really smart like-minded people, like, which makes me feel a little that I can learn so much from that group of people. And the way we set up the tables is in like almost like like they're round tables. So you're not just sitting in rows of, you know, just like you're not in school. You're there to meet the people next to you and talk to all of them and be a part of the movement. And I'll end on there.
Perfect.
All right, guys.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much for being here and helping us support the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. They have a website. All of their products, guys, I have them. I've given them to my cats. They are absolutely amazing. Jay and Adrian don't like to be salespeople, so I'm going to do it for them because it is really hard to find products that you can trust. And trust me when I tell you that. I have been duped so many times where I think something is really good and then I get it and I'm like, what the hell is this? And, you know, I just had a dog food get dropped off for a dog that's boarding with me. There's not even any ingredients written on it. Like nobody even knows what it is. And so you got to be really careful out there, guys. So just know that when I am talking with people or anybody that is at the Thriving Pet Expo, including all of our vendors, all of our speakers, all of our performers, if you trust me to know that I've vetted them. So the products that they sell, the information that they're giving you is very, very genuine. It's very genuine and it's from their hearts. And so go on to the Two Crazy Cat Ladies website, check it out, learn a little bit more about what they do. And certainly if you're looking for any products you can trust on your cats, trust the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. All right.
Oh,
Okay.
we
You're
love you
hired.
so much. You're hired.
No,
Thank you
that's
so much
where
for
it becomes a
having
problem. Money can't change hands because then it loses, you know, all its whatever. So, but yeah, I would do it for free because I believe in it. These kitties need it. I actually have a cat right now that I'm trying to pull out of some problems. I'm using some of your products. I don't think I'm going to have time though. The mom wants to put her to sleep. She's been with me for about a year, and mom is thinking it's time to let her go. And I said, can I take her so I can try? But it's a long story. But anyway, so I just want to also thank Lori, who's behind the scenes, guys, real quick. She does all of this. I'm so not computer person. She's also, I'm going to say practically single-handedly putting together the Thriving Pet Expo. If it wasn't for her, there would not be one. I promise you that. And then for you guys that are here and all of your questions and things, thank you so much for supporting us. And hopefully we'll get to meet you guys live and in person where we can give you a hug and see pictures of your cats at the Thriving Pet Expo. All right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Get your
Amazing.
tickets.
I'll see you guys Thursday.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.